The only thing there is relationship.
There's no such thing as an individual outside of a relationship.
We're born in relationship, we grow in relationships, we're wounded in relationships.
And you know what? The only way we can heal is in relationship.
But our culture values the individual. We are rewarded for being our best selves, to compete and to win.
And it seems that is now coming to an end. It's run its course.
And the individual has in fact led now to a fragmentation of the culture.
It's the quality of the couple, the quality of the family that determine the quality of our society.
And it determines how many medical complaints you have, it determines domestic violence, it determines violence in the culture, crime, it determines poverty. All of these things are related to the quality of being in relationship.
Relationship science has gotten succinct, lasered. You can help couples easily with just a few things if they know the things that they need to do.
Very little energy is put in upriver prevention, which is very simple. Help couples have great relationships with each other. They will have healthy children. Those children will then become the citizens and transform society.
Only 14% of the population goes to therapy. So even if you help all of them get well, it would still make no impact on the culture.
So we had the idea of taking the relational technology and information and science from the clinic to the culture.
Dallas-Fort Worth is the fourth largest market in the country. Corporations are moving here, and we're starting to get a sense of what we're going to become as a city.
Dallas is special because in some ways it's both of their hometowns.
I had been raised in Dallas. I'm from a Dallas family.
I had roots here at Southern Methodist University. So we checked on Dallas, and it's number 9, the highest divorce rate in the nation.
What's interesting in Dallas County is there's about 14,000 marriages every year, and there's also about 7,000 divorces every year. And so that's just a number that we kind of own and we feel, and that we want to change, to be honest.
The first workshop was a serendipity.
Helen and Harville were attending a Dallas Social Venture Partners workshop where I was presenting on collective impact. And after the session, they inquired about if we were doing any work with the families related to relationship health. And I just had a conversation with Avance about their fatherhood program.
And the fathers were saying, we love learning about being better parents, but do you have any help for our marriages? So we offered something we called Safe Conversation, simple tools to help a couple shift from conflict to connection.
It's really moved very quickly. So the first weekend was held here with Avance parents only.
So the second workshop was double in size. The third workshop was double that. And this workshop coming up is double that.
Ultimately, it was clear that Helen and Harville had a vision for the entire city and wanted to work with as many partners as we could find in the city and bring what they've done so successfully around the world with couples to couples in low-income communities who are struggling and wouldn't have access to those kinds of relationship resources.
Well, there are a lot of factors that lead to the problems that we have in Dallas as it relates to marriage, and really helps to quantify why we exceed other cities in the nation to the degree that we do in terms of divorces.
Economics always plays a part. You know, this has always been an economically deprived neighborhood, you know, poverty-stricken. And whenever you're dealing with poverty, you know, you deal with a whole bunch of issues that comes out of that.
We have issues in our community that go back for generations, okay? And we have been affected in a number of different ways. And part of that is indeed broken families.
We see a lot of divorce, we see a lot of separation, we see a lot of broken homes.
El matrimonio es muy difícil por lo mismo del estrés, del trabajo, de que viene de trabajar. A lo mejor las posibilidades o las palabras para hablar con los hijos y con el esposo también.
Sometimes the mom is walking out the doors the minute the dad is walking in. Dad's worked 2 jobs, he's tired. The food on the table is not always nutritious or available.
When the family goes, a lot of things go. When the family leaves, the house deteriorates because you only got the female there or you only got the kids there.
If mom and dad are working, the household is working. So restoring that diet and that connection, I think, is crucial.
Porque si el matrimonio está bien, los hijos van a estar bien, ¿verdad? Y la comunidad también.
This area seems to always go lacking as it relates to job development, as it relates to businesses coming in. You know, it just seems like it's a forgotten neighborhood.
People fall into despair. There's a sense of hopelessness. There's a sense of it not working, a sense of failure.
When people are unemployed, not working, lost of hope, the first person they take that out on is the first person that they see, or the person that they're around most of the time, their spouse or their significant others.
I'm sure you guys are aware that there's been several domestic violence incidents in the city of Dallas.
We had 13,000 cases of domestic violence in 1 year. And so I said, my goodness, this is a huge, huge issue.
Spouses have actually been murdered. And so I think if some of those families would have had a chance to really figure out a way to conversate and a way to have some other type of outlet, maybe even participating in a workshop like Safe Conversation, I think, you know, they would have not reacted in some of the ways that they do. You know, one day could really make a difference, and I'm sure if they could take back some of the things that they did, you know, taking someone's life, I'm sure they would rather have a different outcome.
Violence is a result of the breakdown of some sort of relationship.
When the family breaks down, the foundation for people's lives, for people's health, for children's well-being is seriously jeopardized. And the data are very clear. A very conservative estimation, the cost of family fragmentation comes through at $112 billion a year. So the $150 million that the federal funds are contributing in a preventive way is really good, but it's a very small investment against this $112 billion price tag that we pay every year. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal that we address these problems.
We're actually interested in the reorganization or the transformation of the social system itself. But you can't just take on the system. You have to start on the ground with one couple, one community, one city, and hopefully transform society.
Well, I'm called by friends and colleagues a recovering divorce attorney. I've been a lawyer since 1970, so that's over 40 years, and I've had at least 1,000 family law matters. So I've seen a lot of change, I've seen a lot of cause and effect, and I've seen a lot of misery and unhappiness, unfortunately.
Since 1955, the divorce rate in America has been hovering around 50%. And it's stayed there now for over 65 years, which means it's not a trend.
Marriage is about growing old with someone that is moving and changing while you are moving and changing. And as those changes occur, sometimes the rigidity with which we see right and wrong and up and down often causes us to terminate things that could be rectified.
It's very, very difficult for me to drive down our freeways in Dallas and to open a magazine or a newspaper and see the cacophony of ads from lawyers who are saying, come to me for divorce, run to me for this, run to me for that.
There's probably more social pressure to go through with your wedding than there is for you to stay married. You know, it's more painful to call grandma from New Jersey and say that the wedding's off than it is to call her and tell her that you're filing for divorce.
I'd have a client come into my office and I'd see the 2 little kids waiting in the waiting room while they were talking to me and seeing them play and whatever and thinking, you know, you guys are never going to be the same. That's the consequence of all of this that has to be calculated.
The fragmentation of the family is a contribution to the chaos in our society.
So if we can stop the hemorrhaging by helping partners improve their relationship to the point where there's safety, and they feel connected and joyful together,
we can stop the divorce rate and therefore stop the fragmentation of the family and ultimately produce a cohesive and ordered society again.
Harville and Helen make this claim that they really can change the divorce rate, that they really can, with the right conversation and the right tools, that couples really can stay together, and not just stay together white knuckling it and just hanging on, but actually stay together and increase what I call the joy index. And I thought, well, if this is really, really true, it should be empirically verifiable. That should be something that you could actually prove. And if you could prove it, you should actually be able to turn an entire city around.
When we get started in something like this project, so much energy shows up around it that it's like, wow, it's not us pulling the wagon. Right. We're almost in the wagon, and something else is pulling the wagon, and people are getting on the wagon with us.
First, it's a dialogue process. We teach a couple to do something really radical, which is take turns talking. Like,
dialogue is moving us into a way of talking that has not existed on the planet for millions of years. Because what mainly has been done in the past thousands of years is monologue. That is one person talking and everybody else better be listening. Couples are invited to engage in a conversation using the structure to make it safe. And the way they do it is mirror each other, validate each other, and express empathy for what they're saying, which is that they can imagine how you might be feeling when you're having that experience.
Tara, is now a good time for me to share with you an appreciation?
Yeah, it's a good time.
Mijo, ahora es el momento de darte una apreciación que yo tengo de ti.
Sí, es buen momento.
Are you available now?
Yes, I am.
So now make eye contact.
Okay.
And hold eye contact for about 3 deep breaths. When I talk to Helen, when I'm doing safe conversation, Helen's total focus is on me talking. So when I finish talking, she will mirror back to me, either in a paraphrase or word for word what I said. And she won't change it, she won't criticize it, she won't ask me any questions about it. She just receives it. So let me see if I got that.
Okay, let me see if I have that right.
Let me see if I got that.
Let me see if I got that.
And just mirror him back and mirror it back, just what she said.
Did I get that?
¿Es así lo que dijiste?
Así es.
And the fact that she's receiving it without any sort of reaction to it, I begin to feel safe with her. Is there more about that?
¿Hay algo más que quieras decirme?
Is there more about that?
Is there more about that?
Is there any more, sweetie?
No, that's it.
And so when I finish sharing what comes up, then she will do the second stage, which is to validate. She'll say the sentence stem that we teach is, and that makes sense.
And that makes sense.
Meaning that I make sense. I'm not crazy. She may not agree with me, but what I'm saying makes sense, even if she disagrees with it. But she doesn't deal with her disagreement. It's, you make sense. That makes sense. You make sense. And then after that, she will acknowledge the feelings that go with what I'm saying, with what I'm sharing as an experience, which we call empathy. I can imagine what you might feel if I met that need for you.
I can imagine that if you had that childhood need met, that you would feel happier, you would feel less angry, less sad, and not as afraid. Is that correct?
Perfectly correct. Yes.
It's a communication process, but actually the communication is only the mechanism of creating safety, which is the goal, that it's safe to talk.
Gracias por compartir todo eso conmigo.
Gracias por escuchar.
Thank you for sharing your childhood need with me.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.
That's the ultimate outcome, is to experience being in relationship, talking in such a way that we actually feel connecting, like there's energy moving back and forth between us. We're going to close this up by the two of you giving each other here a 1 minute, full 1 minute body hug.
You know what? Talking is the most dangerous thing human beings do. Most problems are the way we talk to each other and what we say to each other when we're talking.
Every couple at some level struggles with communication.
In any conversation about marriage or relationship, it's always about communication. You always got to communicate, but how do you do that? How do you make it safe? We went through the communication problem because it wasn't safe for me to communicate, at least I didn't feel that way. And technique is always the thing. How do you do it?
Because communication now is about a text, it's about an email, it's a lost skill. People don't talk anymore.
I think sometimes in relationships, when they're going downhill, all the good times become bad times, and the relationships, it gets easier to not talk than talk about it.
You're told you need to communicate, and you're told you need to open up, and the only way to make it work is to communicate, but nobody tells you how to communicate.
Y siempre decíamos, pues, ¿cuál es el problema nuestro? Porque siempre estamos de desacuerdo en todo. Y pues decíamos, no, pues que son las finanzas, o no, que es la crianza de los niños, o es cómo vamos a manejar el tiempo, pero en realidad la raíz de todo era de que la comunicación.
The key component of communication is the listening aspect. God gave you one mouth and 2 ears. You need to listen more than you speak.
Nos ayuda en la vida diaria con las demás personas a aprender a comunicar, porque a veces nos gusta hablar y no nos gusta escuchar. Entonces ahí es donde aprendimos en Conversaciones Seguras cómo escuchar a la persona también y tratar de entender lo que están diciendo y asegurarnos que es lo que nos están diciendo es lo correcto.
For the workshops, it's really important that we provide childcare because so many of these families are living in poverty and can't necessarily afford to hire a babysitter so that they can attend a workshop to improve their marriage.
We are taking all of the obstacles away from those that actually need what we're doing. We're providing the childcare, we're providing the manuals, we're providing all of this at no charge. We're even providing the translation for those that would have a barrier of being able to understand.
We think it can be taught in school. Any of you who brought kids, they're learning it while y'all are learning it. Did you all know that? Did they know that?
So we're here to talk about safe conversation, just about communicating and how we communicate.
But very quickly it became obvious that we had an opportunity, and that opportunity was to work with the kids to teach them safe conversation as well.
There should be 4 R's taught at school: reading, writing, arithmetic, and relationship.
However, if we're going to work together in this workshop, you're going to learn just ways that you can communicate better with your parents, and your parents are learning ways that they can communicate better with you.
The children are processing the same principles in their language and in their context.
And they're learning it with their peers in a fun environment.
But what we're going to learn today, how do we balance that? How do we talk to each other so that everyone's thoughts are taken into consideration and we're able to listen and share ideals and just work it out in the families, okay?
We're gonna make sure that everything that we're learning in here today, that you can actually go explain to your parents what you learned, because guess what? They're learning the same thing.
Generally speaking, you can divide the brain into 2 parts. Your lower brain, which we call the crocodile, and the upper brain, which we call the wise owl.
The crocodile is what? Cranky, He's a little mean.
This is the part of your brain that will react without strategizing or reflecting about it. The part of you that's angry or fearful.
What else about a crocodile?
Oh, I know.
Yes?
He has sharp teeth and he likes to eat things like a frog.
It can rear its mouth, sharp teeth, and snap. And if you are in the way of that crocodile can snap your arm off. Your partner has a crocodile living inside of him or herself. Now the owl, oh my, we love the wise owl.
The owl is real quiet and like it doesn't like when you're talking it doesn't like disturb or anything.
Oh, you heard what she said? She said an owl is really quiet. It doesn't try to disturb you. So if you're talking, it doesn't try to talk over you.
Everyone has a wise owl in their brain. So the wise owl sort of organizes things calmly, and it can create new ideas, like say, hey, we can't figure out this problem. Well, if it's calm enough and you both go into your owl brains, you'll be able to come up with a new idea you had never thought of before. And it creates win-wins. You know what I mean?
Would you rather be more like an owl or like a crocodile?
I'll be an owl.
Raise your hand.
The two together, basically, your brain is trying to help you survive in life, in the world. And at every moment, your brain is scanning the area to see, am I safe right now or am I dangerous? So when it's safe, people get together and they nurture and play. But when it's dangerous, you just want to flee or fight. Your childhood influences your marriage. The feelings you had when you were young, you begin to have those feelings in your love relationship.
The family we grow up in helps our brain finish filling the cavity with brain cells, and the interactions with our caretakers determine whether our brains are going to work chaotically or with order and cohesion.
When I was a child, I felt frustrated by being alone as the only boy in the family.
When I was a child, I felt my thoughts and feelings were unimportant.
When I was a child during my childhood, I lived with parents who were neglectful.
I felt abandoned because I was raised by my grandmother and both of my parents were living. I felt as though no one wanted me, so therefore that I had done something wrong, and so therefore abandoning me with my grandmother who I really didn't know.
And the discovery of your childhood wound, or you may have already discovered it, but putting it into language with your partner, is a way of helping understand how you got together to begin with.
And as a loner in childhood, I felt truly that it was me against the world and misunderstood.
Because of that wound, I decided that nothing I said was important. Nothing that I said mattered because of not feeling wanted.
And we think that's the way nature set it up, is to find in adulthood the person who's similar to the parents in childhood with whom you had an unfinished issue, but in adulthood, you finish that issue with that person.
That attraction to being a loner also makes me make a lot of the decisions on my own and not include you in on the thought process because it just feels more natural.
And I know that in the early parts of our marriage, when I felt like I did not have a voice, I felt that same emotion, and I felt unwanted in the relationship. So therefore, that's why I would get mad.
The only thing your partner needs, the only thing you need, the only thing all of us need is to be present to our partners experiencing while they're having their experience and let them have it without judging them. That's the healing of the childhood wound where the caretakers were not present to the child's experience, but began to shape the child's experience either through intrusion or neglect. So we'll thank you for sharing,
Thank you for sharing.
and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
And then we close up with a 1-minute full body hug. Ending negativity in your relationship is ending your life as you now know it. When you go to zero negativity, the world that you now know will come to an end, because the world you now know is filled with negativity, and much of it is yours. The new world that you will go to, which you cannot go to this world without ending the old one, is looking at everyone through the eyes of love.
Negativity creates anxiety, and it makes it unsafe for your partner, right?
I think an important part of that was the zero negativity act.
Yes.
Because when I talk to you, I want to feel like everything you're saying is out of love, and I'm not speaking to somebody who is out to get me or something like that. You know,
That safe place.
So you can't have any problem solving, and you can't experience romance if there's anxiety in the relationship. You can practice zero negativity and still deal with your problems in your relationship. And you can make requests for what you want. You can deal with serious issues, but in ways that aren't negative.
And then also we learned a technique of ouch. If I said something that was a little jab, I can recognize, wait a minute, you know, I stepped on a foot here.
Zero negativity is looking at everyone through the eyes of love. Love is without judgment. Love is without criticism. Love is without negativity. So when you move to that, you actually begin to change the world in which you live. And the amazing thing is that once you go to the zero negativity place, not only will your inner world change, your interpersonal world will change, and the world around you will begin to change.
Inside Safe Conversations, we've created the Zero Negativity Kit. It's a simple calendar, and you've got 3 tools to work with. You got a smiley face, you got a frowny face when you blow it, and you got a reset button.
When you practice something, whatever it is, it changes the neuronal connections in the brain. If it's negative, your brain will then grow in its capacity to be negative. If you practice things that are connectional and positive and safe, your brain then grows those neural nets so that you, through a process of practicing, actually alter the functioning of your brain. So it eventually becomes your new way of being in the world, because now you have a brain that's gone through a transformational process. So you're no longer having to try to be a certain way. Your brain now processes the world in a new way.
So we're gonna learn the 3 things we want you to do going forward when having conversation with your friends. And the first thing I want you to do, which we're gonna show you here, can everyone say mirror?
Mirror.
And what do you think about when you think about mirroring someone? What do you have?
That you can see yourself in the mirror. Like when you look at yourself, you can see the same thing.
Right, that's it. That you said the same things. So that's what we're gonna talk about. When you're talking to your friends and they come to you or they have a problem, or if they're upset or if there's something that has happened, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you mirror them. And when we say that, you want to say back to them exactly what they said to you, okay? So do we want to have anyone that want to come up and do a couple scenarios?
Me.
It's been remarkable to see what the kids are doing in those classrooms while their parents are learning about safe conversation for their marriage. The kids are doing activities. They're actually role-playing how to have safe conversations.
So the next thing, we're going to do what we call check-in. Can you say check-in?
Check-in.
So when we do check-in, that means that we want to check on the crocodile and make sure by saying, is there anything else?
Is there anything else that you would like to say?
Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Yes.
You're making sure that you've heard everything that your friend has to share with you. So that way, if you get all the information, then you can respond back to them in a nice, safe way, okay? And you can tell them, you know, that makes sense why you're feeling that way. I understand, but this is the reason why this happened, or I hope you feel better, okay? By validating.
The incredible thing that we have seen with the teachers in the classroom is that the kids will incorporate safe conversations into their interactions, not just in the role play or in the lesson, but actually in the way they're interacting just together in the classroom on their own. So when one child grabs a marker from another child, one of the kids will chime up and say, hey, that's being the cranky crocodile. You should use the wise owl and ask for the crayon or ask for the marker.
Hey, can I use your marker, please?
Can I use it first and then I'll give it to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So what we've seen already happening is that the children begin to hold the parents accountable for communicating that way, which is so cool.
So you guys gonna go out with those skills today?
Yeah.
All right.
And when you all learn safe conversation, this is what is so cool. If you're learning it with the person you're with today, and you all get it, your kids are gonna get it. And that's really this is really our hope. The kids are gonna pick it up. Kids love the art of safe conversation. They love it.
And it says safe conversation is a superhero skill. You can imagine a world where everyone had the skills to help each other feel safe. What kind of world would it look like?
A beautiful world.
What kind of world would it look like?
A beautiful world.
We have a farm where we raise cattle and catfish, a little bit of hay. That's about it.
We started construction of these ponds in 1990. We had one child at the time. We ended up with 4 kids. I was a stay-at-home mom for 26 years and raised the kids here. I kept my family together all these years. It has not been an easy marriage. Marriage is not easy. At this point in my life, I feel like we're going in opposite directions.
It's just been one miscommunication after another.
I left the house 6 months ago. Woke up one morning and things had not been good for quite some time, and did not know that I was not coming home that night. I was actually gone 5 days before my husband even called me and said, hey, I've got a place I can go. And I just, I said, I've been gone 5 days, I'm okay, I'll be okay.
And then in February of this past year, I had a major heart attack, sitting right there in the garage, and just fell out.
He was angry before then. I'm not sure what his anger is over. If I could ask him that and get an answer, that might be helpful.
You can call it what you want to, but I know how I handle stress, especially in a relationship. I'll just stuff it down in there, and that's what it gets you.
Divorce is something I've threatened. It's not something I want to face.
You've got your choice. Your relationship's either going to grow or die, and ours has been dying.
And I would love nothing more than to be able to sit right here at this table with my husband and plan a future for both of us that works for both of us.
Now, this exercise is the full dialogue process. So it's an information dialogue. It's not an agreement dialogue. So you will not agree that you're going to meet the need. What I want you to get is there is such a thing as the need. Identify it, because that begins to feed your empathy. And then once you're there, then you become partners in the project of getting those needs met, because they do have to be met. Your brain is insatiably connected to the need satisfaction. and pulled you all together to meet those needs, and any conflict is about those needs not being met. Now the topic is the need that I brought to our relationship from childhood.
I think there's a lot of issues in his family that he has not dealt with, that we have just kind of covered up and tried to do different ourselves in our own family.
My dad was a tyrant, to say the least. He was not a good influence on anybody. He was and still is very controlling and manipulative, and those are all things that I have vowed in my life that I would not do.
I hope that he will deal with some of his maybe childhood hurts that have created anger. You know, these are only assumptions, but I can't talk with him about them because of the anger. It is too confrontational.
Definitely, my father had a lot with molding my character. I shudder every time I hear myself say something that he said. I correct myself a lot.
I would like to see him deal with his own anger and find out why it's addressed towards me.
When I was a child, I lived with caretakers that were neglectful. They did not value my input or listen to me. What I feel like I needed from them and never got was their time to pay attention to me as a child, not what I could do athletically or things of that nature, but of me.
If I got that right, in your childhood, your parents did not give you enough time to validate who you are as a person. Did I get that right?
Yes, I would say so.
Is there more about that?
So check and see if she got it all. It's important.
Well, I've shoved that so far back there, it's hard to even see it. By not getting their time, I felt alone, very empty, very sad and alone. That's pretty much it.
You never got their time.
I never got their time, kept striving for it by working harder and longer. Didn't happen.
And so with all that, I imagine you might be feeling.
So with all that, I imagine you might be feeling a lot of anger and disappointment in yourself because you've never had that need met, and that emptiness continues, and you're still striving, and it's like going down a path and beating yourself up, and you just keep beating yourself up.
Did I get the feelings right?
Did I get the feelings right?
The majority of them, yes.
So would you share the one I missed?
Would you share the one I missed?
Fear.
So if I get this right, you also have fear.
Thank you for sharing all of this with me.
So thank you for sharing all of this with me.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to me.
And now you get a 1-minute hug.
Everything around you is either growing or dying or building or collapsing. Nothing stays the same. And it's the same with people, relationships, buildings, vehicles, you name it.
I'm just looking forward to a future that David and I can plan and work towards together. That would be the desire of my heart. And I tell you, if that is something that I can help change in this world, is the devastation and the damage of separating families and divorce. I want to be a part of making that change.
We encourage a ritual, which is appreciations. 3 appreciations every night before going to bed.
Una cosa que yo aprecio de ti, Luis, es que cada día tú sales a trabajar desde temprano y bajo los climas extremos estás allá afuera trabajando duramente.
Practice putting positive energy into the relationship.
I love the shape of your eyes and contour of your nose, the way you fit in those jeans.
Te amo y que agradezco todo el esfuerzo que haces para nuestra familia.
I love your eyes. They're beautiful, crystalline blue. Every time I look in them, they make me feel good. I see your intelligence sparkling from them.
You have to give each other consistent, predictable, and reliable care. And it must be every day.
Sometimes when the world is hard on your shoulders,
You're grateful and you're a great friend.
hold tight and I promise you, you will make it out alive. We will.
I love the fact that you are my soulmate.
We're gonna make it this time.
Stuffed tacos.
It's like my favorite.
Take it and make it your own way. Turkey tacos, Chipotle, seasoned. All right. We close though, we close.
No, turkey tacos are my favorites. Thank you for cooking this for me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get Niles to help with napkins. Hey, Niles, can you come fold some napkins?
Mom, how do you teach the safe conversations to the people who don't really know how to use it?
Well, you know, I kind of think it's like when we came home from the Safe Conversations, you were so excited about it, and we learned that you had actually found out about it in yours, but Kaden didn't, and you used it with her, and she adapted really quickly to you, right? Show me what y'all did, or remind me what y'all did, because I walked in and I was like, this is great. This is great.
Kaden, did you notice that you slammed the dishwasher on my foot?
Did you say that I noticed that I slammed the dish door on your foot?
Yes, I asked you if you noticed that you slammed the dishwasher door on your foot.
I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
So you said you're sorry and you won't do it again?
Yes.
Is there more?
No.
Okay, I accept your apology. Yeah, it kind of went something like that.
Doing the workshops is one thing that gets people into a transformational process. What we also know is that if you just do workshops and get people to show up for a day and don't provide a way for them to follow through, that you can't sustain the impact for very long. So the new thing that we're now moving into with some rapidity and planning is a follow-up, follow-through process that can sustain the couples practicing.
We're planning to do a year-long commitment of workshops throughout the city. We're working with partners to offer locations where individuals can come once a month for a 2-hour practice session with clinical assistants that will facilitate them through what they've learned.
The clinical assistants who have shown up to help us, oh my, there were about 18 that showed up the first time, they're now 40. Unexpected things have been happening. Things we had no idea would happen have happened, and you all are at the top of that list.
We want to know from everybody who's been to a workshop, what would attract you to follow through?
That's always the challenge, right? Getting them excited at first, but then how do we keep them excited and keep them invested and grow the work?
This is a model, and the model works. As you all were saying, it works in Sweden, it works in Denmark, it works in Africa.
The instrument that was used in the pilot project that we're continuing to use has really good metrics, and it looks at relationship adjustment and some nuances of that. So relationship satisfaction, affection, cohesion, things like are couples consensus, are they on the same page about decisions? And we added an additional measure which also looks at just sort of general relationship satisfaction.
We saw not just that it was a statistically significant change, but it was a big change. So we did find that couples can get more healthy if they're attending these safe conversation workshops.
We look for a leader couple that we can identify and approach and see if we can help train them to take this into a home and help them do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, the conversation about the Safe Conversations workshop, it was how we could not only use it to enhance our communication in our marriage, but we immediately had some couples we were thinking about that should have been there.
Yeah.
And we were going to tell them about it as soon as we could.
So anyway, starting with are you available, and then the mirroring, and then the wounds of the past. I think that was what was so significant for me, is that to hear Daryl talk about some of his wounds, even though I knew them, but in the structure, for a moment I saw the little boy inside. I did not see Daryl, I saw the wounded boy inside, and I think that's why Safe Conversations is like so wonderful to us and what we're doing and talking with you, because it shows you your partner on the inside.
En esta ocasión tenemos la oportunidad de traer arriba de 30, de invitar a 30 parejas. Y es que en realidad nos hemos dado cuenta que todos los matrimonios, todas las parejas necesitamos ayuda. Y cuando hablamos de psicología, la gente se confunde y piensa que estoy tocado de la cabeza y no, para nada, sino que necesitamos asistencia, porque no somos gente que lo sabemos todo.
No.
Entonces tienes que aprender, tienes que tener algo para poder ayudar a los demás.
That's what will integrate this into the couples who are here, is that they practice for 2 years, a little bit, and then you have a permanent shift. But if you just have a good party, everybody comes to Monday morning and they're sober and life starts over again like it was on Friday. So we'd like to have the party last. The workshop is over, but the journey continues.
I saw people today be able to walk through processes that they had no understanding of before, no background information about at all in any theoretical or practical way, be able to go from A to B. And the A is early childhood learnings, which are deep and tough to get in touch with, to B, which is a consciousness about how it affects their lives today, and be able to create out of that closeness and understanding and intimacy. So that's an impressive process that Harville and Helen are able to help people move through.
The structure keeps you safe, and you can't connect and you can't risk unless you feel safe. It allowed me to feel my feelings. It allowed me to connect in a way that I've never been able to because there was that safety there.
I don't know if it's the atmosphere, I don't know if it's Harville and Helen, I don't know if it's the material, I don't know if it's all of the above, but something really magical happens. And very quickly you see shifts in couples relationships that happen instantaneously.
We've been together 2 months.
We met February the 7th, and we was married March the 7th.
If we hadn't had safe conversations, I don't think we would have got married. Safe conversations really was right on time.
Yes, it was.
That's right on time.
Yo también me siento muy contento, muy feliz. Es la segunda vez que estoy en este programa. Yo creo que ha consolidado más nuestro matrimonio. Yo creo que todos necesitamos buscar asesoría, consejería. Todos necesitamos, es bueno para nuestra relación. Thank you.
Pues en este mundo que estamos viviendo necesitamos estas conversaciones seguras. Y no solamente para los matrimonios, sino también en nuestros jóvenes.
Each time we get it right, there's an incredible ripple effect, both immediately and then for generations here in the city. As their kids have kids who have kids who have kids. There's a lot of problems in the city, but I really do believe that one of the best ways to fix this city is to fix the problem of marriage. And really all the other ones, I think, will take care of themselves after the fact.
We've got to be able to learn how to express our emotions in a safe way. I think that's what's critical.
So this whole movement, in a very short period of time, is just having that ripple effect within the community. And really so many times, if we can just talk honestly with each other, we're going to solve a lot of problems that otherwise just go left unmet and you move on.
All of us need the chance to reconfigure ourselves and transform ourselves and evolve. And we need to do it in an environment that creates a comfort zone whereby we can be our real self and not just our ideal self.
It was nice to hear the nice things, and you can't help but smile when your spouse is focusing and noticing things about you that oftentimes you feel they don't see. And so it was just nice to have concentration for both of us to just really pour out our love on each other.
We've got to find a way to take the message to the masses. I really think you could change the whole world one person at a time if you understand talking one-on-one is where it all starts.
The impact of we don't want anything from you, this is our gift to you and your family, your community, and to the city.
Now you can take it to other communities and just watch this thing click off, and all of a sudden you have a Family Wellness Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and it can spread all around Texas and around the country. You might see a stadium full of people someday celebrating relationships here in Dallas.
There's no limit to how good, how big, how powerful, and how profound this can be. And we have to prove it in Dallas first, and then we can take it to the world.
Every single weekend, so many of the parents say, really, we came here as a last-ditch effort because we were getting a divorce, and now we're not.
The time and the tools have given me hope. So yes, there is hope.
People coming up later and saying, this was our last hope. And now we know how to do it. I think the thing that touches me the most is it's so simple. That people just simply don't know what to do. And then they get it, that it's not rocket science. You can actually do this. It's having a safe conversation, for God's sake.